What is up, everyone? Mark here, and in today's extra, we're doing one of my old favorites, Jello Cake. Now, you can use any flavor of Jello with this. Traditionally, it's made with a yellow cake or a white cake with strawberry or cherry Jello, so you get some red stripes in there. I wanted to do it a little bit differently. I've always wanted to see it made with lime Jello. So today we're going to make a lemon lime Jello cake. We're going to use a yellow cake, my favorite recipe from Alton Brown. Recipe is down below if you're interested. You can use any yellow cake mix for this. You can use really any cake mix for this, but a box mix, I'm not going to shame you for that. So we're going to start out with a regular yellow cake for this, assuming it's already made. I did add lemon zest, and I used lemon extract instead of vanilla extract in my cake to get more of a lemon flavor in there to go with the lime. All right, let's get started. Okay, so Jello cake, here we are. Like I said, I pre-made my cake. I used Alton Brown's recipe, which I have down below. Again, adding lemon zest and using lemon extract instead of vanilla extract. So for the Jello, we're going to use lime Jello. We're going to need 1 cup of boiling or almost boiling water and half a cup of cold water. And later on, to frost it, once the Jello has had a chance to set, we're going to use 1 package of vanilla pudding. And we're going to use about 2 cups of whipped topping. I'm using Dream Whip mixed whipped topping because that's what the original recipe for this called for. You can use a couple of cups of Cool Whip if that's what you've got. I just wouldn't use real whipped cream in this recipe. I don't think that would work out so well. So first things first, we're going to get started by poking the holes in our cake. We just want to take a fork and go all the way through and make a pattern all the way across, and that's where our Jello is going to seep in. Okay. So now we just want to mix up our Jello. And we just want to mix this together until it is fully dissolved. It should be pretty quick. Okay, now I'm going to add my hot Jello water to my half a cup of cold water. Okay, now we just want to carefully pour this over the top. And we're going for trying to get it to seep into the holes that we poked with the fork. We don't want it to necessarily all just flow over to the sides. Okay, now this is going to have to sit in the fridge for about 2 or 3 hours. We want the Jello to set completely and for it to be completely cooled before we frost it. And again, the frosting is just going to be some vanilla pudding and some Dream Whip. Super easy. Once we get that applied, we'll let that cool a little bit in the fridge, and this actually gets better after a day or 2 in the refrigerator. All right, so we're going to get this into the refrigerator to cool, and we'll pick this up in a few hours with the frosting. Okay, we are ready to move on to frosting our lemon lime Jello cake. Before we do that, a few things that I want to mention. One, you do want to start with a fully cooled cake. I actually made this cake yesterday, let it cool completely overnight before we did the Jello step this morning. You just want to make sure that it's cooled completely. You don't want to go poking holes in it and pouring Jello in it when it's still hot or still warm, really even. Second thing, you can do this with any kind of cake and any kind of Jello in any kind of combination that you think might be nice. One that I plan on trying in the future actually is a chocolate cake with either a black cherry or maybe raspberry flavored Jello. Not that you would be able to necessarily see the stripes in that because it's chocolate cake, but you know the flavors would go together really well. And this cake is just really good. The texture is kind of nice and interesting, and it's just really super tasty. So now we want to work on our frosting. Now this is just a combination of vanilla pudding and whipped topping, which again, because the original recipe called for it, I used Dream Whip. 1 envelope of Dream Whip with half a cup of milk and half a teaspoon of vanilla. Again, I used a half a teaspoon of lemon extract instead. Makes about 2 cups of finished whipped topping. Again, you can use Cool Whip. I don't like to use Cool Whip in things like this only because I feel like it leaves kind of a chemical aftertaste to whatever I put it in. But, you know, this is sort of just a small step above that. Again, I wouldn't use regular whipped cream only because I'd be worried that it might deflate or kind of thin out and make kind of a mess of things. But we're ready to get started. So all we're going to do is start by making the pudding first in a large bowl. And that's just per the package instructions. It's going to be 2 cups of milk mixed with the pudding powder, instant pudding, of course. And I just kind of want to whisk this together until it is fully combined, and it should start to firm up pretty quickly. We're starting with cold milk. Okay, this is pretty well combined. We're going to give this a few minutes to firm up in the fridge, maybe just 5-10 minutes before we move on to the next step of folding in the whipped topping. Okay, so our pudding was setting up in the fridge for a few minutes, and that's really all we need. We don't want it to set up fully. It's helpful for it to still be a little bit liquid to fold in the whipped topping. And we want to start by adding maybe 1/3 of our whipped topping in. And this first third I'm going to mix in kind of aggressively, just to kind of help lighten the pudding mixture and get it ready to fold in the rest. Okay, now we are going to fold in the rest a little bit more carefully. And we just want to fold this in.
What does that mean? What does fold in the cheese mean?
He folds it in.
I understand that, but how do you fold it? Do you fold it in half like a piece of paper and drop it in the pot, or what do you do?
David, I cannot show you everything.
Okay, well, can you show me one thing?
And all that actually means folding in is sort of what you see. It's a folding motion. It's a gentle mixing that doesn't beat the stuff really hard or whip it really hard. It's what you would do when you want to mix something that's kind of light and fluffed up with air, like the whipped topping, in with something that's heavier, like the pudding. And you would just keep kind of repeating this motion until you've gone through and combined it really well, and there aren't really any streaks of whipped topping in here anymore. As I finish this up, also a good time to remind you, if you have not subscribed to the channel yet, please do so. You can click the link in the corner there, the watermark, or the red button down below the video. If you're watching on Facebook, just go over to youtube.com/markberm and you can subscribe there. And, you know, once again, just thank you guys so much for continuing to support the channel and continuing to watch the videos. It really means a lot. All right. I think we're good. So super simple. We're just going to plop this all down and spread it out. Okay, now this pudding and whipped topping mixture will set up further. It'll thicken up a bit. So we want to give this another couple of hours to firm up in the fridge, although you could technically eat this now. The frosting layer would just be a little bit more runny than it ought to be. But we're going to let this sit in the fridge for at least a couple hours. We'll probably come back and have some after dinner. Okay, at long last, many hours later and after dinner, it is time to cut and taste our cake. Cut a nice big slab. Let's see how we can do getting it out of here. Let's see. Oh, we got our green stripes. The frosting on top is like pudding. Very creamy. It's an incredibly moist cake. And because it's Jello, it's not falling apart squishy moist. It's firm but moist. Got a good lemon flavor. The lime spread throughout from the Jello. The little bit of lemon extract in the pudding kind of balances the vanilla. Really good. I would say this one's a success. And I can't wait to try it with chocolate and raspberry. All right, guys, that's it for another one. We'll see you in the next video.